Today, Lyme Regis is one of Britain's most famous seaside towns. People come for the beaches, the famous cob, the fossils, the Jurassic Coast and the beautiful historic streets. But look beyond the tourists, the cafes, and the fossil hunters, and you'll discover a very different Lyme Regis. Because this picturesque seaside town was once a busy trading port and a surprisingly productive manufacturing centre. And some of the things made here may genuinely surprise you. Lyme Regis has a history stretching back more than 1,000 years. The first recorded reference to Lyme dates from 774, and in 1284 King Edward I granted the town a royal charter. That is where the name Lyme Regis comes from, Lyme of the king. The town's position on the coast made it ideal for trade, but it also made it vulnerable to the sea. And that brings us to the cob. Today, the cob is one of Britain's most recognizable seaside landmarks. But it wasn't built for tourists. It was built to protect the harbour and provide shelter for ships. For centuries, the cob helped Lyme Regis operate as a working port, with ships arriving and departing with goods and materials. The town became involved in international trade, particularly during its most prosperous trading period between the 16th and 17th centuries. Lyme was connected to trade across Europe and much further afield, including Africa, the West Indies and the Americas. Storms repeatedly battered the harbour, and in 1377 the cob was swept away, contributing to the destruction of dozens of boats and around 80 houses. But Lyme rebuilt. And eventually, the town developed another side to its economy: manufacturing. By the 18th and 19th centuries, Lyme Regis and the surrounding Lyme Valley were producing a surprisingly wide range of goods. There was textile production, including woolen cloth and silk. There was pottery. There were bricks and tiles. Flax and hemp were processed. There was rope and net making connected with the maritime trade. And there was even lace making. But perhaps the most unexpected industry was iron founding and stove making. Today, it is difficult to imagine Lyme Regis as a place producing iron cooking ranges. But in Victorian times, it was. One of the most important names was Edward Brown. Brown was associated with patented cooking ranges and stoves manufactured in Lyme Regis. And these weren't simply products sold to people in the local area. They were marketed nationally. In 1851, Brown stoves were exhibited at the Great Exhibition in London, where they received a prize medal. The company promoted what it called the Lyme Regis Patent Economical Cooking Range, designed to use less fuel and help deal with smoky chimneys. By the 1860s, Brown Brothers were operating an iron and gas works in Church Street. They described themselves as kitchen range manufacturers, engineers, iron and brass founders, and manufacturers of gas, hot water, and steam apparatus. They even had a London address. So imagine Victorian Lyme Regis. A small coastal town producing sophisticated cooking equipment and selling it hundreds of miles away. Lyme's iron industry was small compared with the great industrial centres of Britain, but it was real manufacturing. And then there were bricks and tiles. Local clay was used to produce building materials around the Lyme Valley. One of the names that survives is Haycraft and Company. Some surviving tiles are actually stamped with the words Haycraft Lyme Regis. George Haycraft became an important figure in the local brick, tile, and cement industries. But the industry faced growing competition from larger manufacturers elsewhere. By the late 19th century, cheaper bricks from places such as Pinhoe near Exeter were making it increasingly difficult for Lyme's local producers to compete. The local brickworks eventually closed. And this is an interesting part of Lyme's story. The town's industries weren't simply destroyed by a lack of demand. Britain itself was changing. Better transport meant that goods could be moved more cheaply over greater distances. And when the railway reached Lyme Regis in 1903, that process accelerated. The railway connected the town with the wider country, but it also made it easier for outside manufacturers to sell their products in Lyme. Some local industries could not compete. Another major industry developed around the stone beneath Lyme Regis: cement. The local Blue Lias limestone was valuable for producing cement and hydraulic lime. At Monmouth Beach, a major cement works developed during the 19th century. One of the companies involved was Hutchinson and Freen. The works used the local limestone and became part of a larger industrial operation involving quarrying, cement production, and brick and tile making. Later, the Lyme Regis Cement Company produced Portland cement under the Keystone brand. The works even had its own vessel involved in transporting materials. So picture the coastline as it once was. Where tourists now search for fossils, workers were quarrying stone. Where people now walk along the seafront, industrial materials were being moved. Cement was being manufactured. Bricks and tiles were being produced. And ships were carrying goods away. In fact, the geology that makes Lyme Regis famous for fossils was also important to its industrial history. The Blue Lias limestone was quarried for cement, and the quarrying exposed rock surfaces where fossils could be found. And that leads us to the person who would eventually help make Lyme Regis famous around the world. The story of Mary Anning. Mary was born in Lyme Regis in 1799. Growing up in a poor family, she became one of Britain's most important fossil hunters. Along the cliffs and beaches around Lyme, Mary and her brother Joseph discovered remarkable prehistoric remains. Her discoveries helped scientists understand creatures that had lived millions of years before humans. Among the most famous were ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs. Mary Anning became an important figure in the early development of paleontology, although she received far less recognition during her lifetime than she deserved. Today, her connection with Lyme Regis is impossible to miss. The Lyme Regis Museum stands on the site of the house where Mary was born and where she sold fossils before moving to Broad Street. The museum now tells the story of Mary, Lyme's geology, and the town's history, and visitors can take part in guided fossil walks along the coast. And this brings us to Lyme Regis today. The industries have largely disappeared. The ironworks are gone. The cement works has gone. The old brick and tile industry has vanished. And Lyme is no longer the busy commercial port it once was. Instead, the town has reinvented itself around tourism. And today, tourism is a huge part of the Lyme Regis experience. Visitors come to walk along the Cobb. They come to enjoy the beaches. They explore the historic streets and independent shops. They visit cafes, restaurants, galleries, and museums. They walk the southwest coast path. And many come specifically for the fossils. The Jurassic Coast is one of the biggest attractions of all. Stretching for around 95 miles along the Dorset and Devon coast, it records roughly 185 million years of Earth's geological history. And Lyme Regis sits right at the heart of it. For visitors, this means something quite unusual. Today, Lyme Regis is no longer an industrial town. Its fossils, beaches, and Jurassic Coast scenery attract visitors from around the world. And beneath your feet, the history is still there.